Okay, BugeyeBob back here with you. Nice to take a couple of weeks off. Let's get into a few things that I've gotten done over the past week or so, and we'll talk about some things that are coming up in the future. So let's get down, and the first place I want to look at is right down there. So this is the bottom of the spring. The quarter elliptical spring goes in here. This plate goes on the bottom. This hooks up to the passenger seat, and this main brace that runs up forward to here. So that's the length of that brace. Now then, the problem is, like happens with so many of these aftermarket parts, this is a 1958 vehicle. This was probably made for 1961 and on vehicles. That means that it does not fit. These bolt holes here fit perfectly. Those right there fit fine. The 1/2-inch U-bolt holes and the 2 bolts up front here fit fine. The problem is that this plate is so long that I had to bend this flange back out flat to get it in there. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to heat this flange up right here, flatten it out, and then rebend it over. Not a big problem. Then, now let's talk about this rear bulkhead panel. You will notice that I've held it in with screws. I've used Clicos in other places. I'll show you some in a minute. The reason for using screws is, again, I had to do some reforming on this back part of this. I am screwing it down so that I can then turn around and weld it down. But Clicos would not be strong enough to hold it into position. I tried those and they just aren't strong enough. And this piece cannot be welded into position until I can get the vehicle outside and strip off. There's a bunch of rust and stuff down under there I want stripped off. Strip some of it off up in here and stuff. Now, let's talk about these braces right here that go down on each side. And I don't remember what they're called. I'll try to remember to put in the exact name in there. These pieces are angled and have to be mounted before this brace can be mounted. It runs up to this cross beam that holds the jacking points. This piece here on each side, almost an L-shaped, but if you look real close, these holes that come pre-punched in these pieces, they don't line up very well. So I'm going to have to weld those up. I've got 3 levels of holes. I've got this big spring plate mount, down here on the bottom. I've got this angle piece here. I've got this piece here. Each of them has holes in it that's supposed to line up. They don't line up. Again, I suspect because they were made for newer versions of the vehicle than what I have. Now then, I'm going to have to trim a little bit off the back end of these pieces so that they'll settle down on, because right now they're hitting on the welds on there. Probably have to hammer them down a little bit, reform them a little bit. That's the sort of thing that happens. Let's talk about these other pieces I've got in here. Okay, as often seems to happen with these things, I woke up in the middle of the night and thought to myself, I don't think you've got this right. I originally thought that these pieces went together like this, and I was going to have to grind out this part right here so it would all fit in there. And then in the middle of the night I got to thinking, I remember seeing a gap underneath of this piece. And I think the way they really go together is like this. So I went and did a test fit, and yep, that sure seems to be the way they go together. But just to be certain, I dug out the pieces that I pulled out, and the scrap of this shows that it's kind of covered up here, but this is all rusted out, so there was nothing covered it. So I know that this had to be fitting like so. So let's take a look at how that sits in the car now. And I have partially... Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. You can now make a one-time or recurring donation to help save Lazarus through PayPal. For less than the price of a cup of coffee each month, you can support this project as a member on Patreon. See the links in the description below. Bolted in that side right there. So you can see that this piece is on top of that one. And now I got to yank everything in because it sounds like we got a thunderstorm coming in. Now then, these are the foot kick plates so that you have some place to put your feet when you sit down in the car. Got an angle to them. I originally screwed up and mounted this one up a little bit too high. These I've mounted in with Clico pins because they're gonna fit. They don't have to be. These are plates that I built, angled and fit in there. So these are all set. They can be spot welded in or welded in, however I want to do it. Same on each side. So that brings you up to date on where things are at right now. I've got these pieces drilled and mounted to this flange on each side. I'm going to take some of this heavy-duty tubing, cut it, and fit it in between here, and I think I'm going to do it so that it bolts onto here and bolts onto here, so that it bolts onto the subframe, and it bolts to this piece here that's bolted to the car itself. The reason for doing that is I have got to cut off some of these other places. So for instance, so to get the floor pans in, I've got to cut these off, cut these few pieces that are left off, and I'm going to have solid mounts on the front and solid mounts on the back that I know the vehicle's going to be not twisting around and stuff. So one floor pan covers from here all the way to here. Actually the full floor plan does. I've got two halves. Unfortunately, the two halves do not meet in the middle, so I'm going to have to put some metal into the middle of this thing also to close that up, but you know, that's whatever. So before I can do that, I've basically got to get the front and the rear of the vehicle solid enough that I can pull out the inner and outer sill on each side, and probably at the same time as doing inner and outer sills, I'm going to want to do my inner and outer A-pillars on the right and left-hand side. Again, one of the other things I've got to do is make sure that the doors fit properly on each side. So to make sure that the doors fit right on each side, I've got to get the A-pillars in, I've got to get the inner and outer sills in, and once those are done, then I can look at mounting in the floor pan, which again runs in a real large area. And that is, once I get the floor pans in, that is a major step in the process. So one of the other things I've got to do is I've got to repair the bottoms of these doors. As you can see, this is rotted out all the way around the corner here, all the way back to here. That's the passenger side. The driver's side's got one little pinhole here, a hole here, so it's not too bad, but while I'm doing them, I might as well do them both. Now, those sorts of repairs, looks like I've got to repair part of the skin right here. So this has got to be repaired right here on the passenger side. There's a little bit of damage here that's got to be worked out. That stuff I can do without having to, well, I will need to grind some of that out. But that's small enough that I can take it outside, grind it out early in the morning without having to move the whole vehicle out. So, oh, got one more thing I got to show you. This piece right in here has got to be replaced up around through there. I've got that piece cut. So I've got a piece cut kind of like that to go in there, because this is all rusted out and no good. One of the other things about fitting in these heavy duty brackets is I had to pound the hell out of this and bend it out of the way. So I'm going to have to cut in and re-weld that down there, and this side I'm going to have to heat up with the oxyacetylene torch, flatten out, wait for it to cool off, and then bend the flange back over. So, okay, folks, that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Because a lot of this stuff on the rear is going to need a lot of grinding, like putting in that rear bulkhead panel and a couple other things. It's still kind of hot here in Pensacola. I've done some grinding and sandblasting and things like that when it was 95 degrees out and 100% here. Oh, not 100%. It's never 100% here. It's always 99% humidity. I can do it. I don't like to do it. I've got other things that I can do, like fixing the bottom of these floor pans. There's other pieces that I need to make to repair things. One of the things that I need to do, particularly on the rear here, is I need to, since this side is pretty good, or maybe if I can find another local Bugeye that this panel is good on, I'm going to use Ray Shalene's flexible shape pattern process to get a template of what this whole thing should be like. And when I do that, I'll show you folks the process that's involved and how it's used and things like that, the best of my knowledge. Let's see, what else is there? I think I've got an answer to this whole where in the hell is the trunk at situation. I don't know if I'll tell you about it. Yeah, I will tell you about it. I'll tell you about it. Back when this car was new, they actually sold kits where you could put in a trunk lid into this one of these vehicles. So what I've done is I've picked up what I think will fit. This seems to have almost the same shape. Looks like it'll almost fit. I might have to cut this in, bring it in a little bit more this way, which is fine. But that would give me the trunk lid that this vehicle would so desperately need. And I'd move the Sprite emblem up onto this part of it. And I think that'll work. I've got to take some more measurements. I've got to measure this angle and see if it matches around like this. It may or may not. But quite frankly, I think that's a viable thing to do. The other thing about doing that is that with that opening in there, that gives me access to both sides so I can get in and repair all of this real nasty damage that's done here and on that other side over there, which on that other side over there where it's really busted all the shit. Usual thing, like, share, subscribe, make comments. Any questions you have, put them down in the comments. A lot of people are watching these things. Not a lot of people are making comments. Comments would really help because, number one, it helps me know what you're interested in. And number two, that's part of what the YouTube algorithm runs off of. Doesn't run off of how long you watch the video. It runs off of how many comments do you make on that video and do you like the video? That's really the things that drive the YouTube algorithm. So it would help me a lot if you would do those things. If you can afford the $4 a month on Patreon, join as a subscriber over on Patreon, join as a member over there at $4 a month. And coming up, I am going to be, I've got to learn how to do this stuff. Odd for a guy who spent 40 some odd years in IT, but we can't be experts on everything. But I would like to do some live streams from here in my garage. I'd rather not do them from my office because, quite frankly, it wouldn't make sense. Okay? It makes more sense to do a live stream about this car, Lazarus, and what's going on with it and why from my garage than it does to try to do it from my office, where basically what I've got is a couple of bookcases behind me, and you aren't going to see any books about cars or restoration or anything like that on there. It's books about arts and filming and history and crap like that. So, okay. That's it for this week. Thank you very much. You folks have a blessed life. BugeyeBob here, over and out. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of BugeyeBob. I really appreciate you watching and hope that, like me, you've learned a few things to do or maybe not to do in this episode. Please like and comment on this video as it encourages YouTube to share it with others and helps grow the channel. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell to get notified when new videos are released. If you'd like to support this channel and save Lazarus from the recycle furnace, you can now make a one-time or recurring donation through PayPal. You can also support this restoration project by becoming a member at patreon.com/BugeyeBob. Patreon members get early access to the videos and in the future will enjoy question and answer sessions and live streams. As this channel grows, future Patreon member benefits will include bonus or extended videos, member names in the credits, and the ability to suggest topics for future videos. You can follow this BugeyeBob restoration on YouTube and Facebook. You'll find the links in the description below for PayPal, Patreon, YouTube, and Facebook. Once again, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and supporting this channel.